Hello, my name is Taylor Healy Brooks, and I am the current librarian in residence in the Latin American, Caribbean, and European Division. And today we are here to have a discussion concerning Haiti and Black internationalism. This discussion accompanies a research guide crafted in the Latin American, Caribbean, and European Division at the Library of Congress. The guide provides resources for those interested in the cultural and historical contributions of Haiti and the Western Hemisphere. Today, we are speaking with Dr. Brandon R. Bird, Dr. Leslie Alexander, Dr. Jean-Eddie St. Paul, Dr. Gregory Perot, and Dr. Chelsea Stieber. We are excited to speak with these accomplished scholars who can help us understand the cultural and historical context of Black agency in the Americas. So, our first question to the scholars is a big motivation for me and the project that I'm doing here at the Library of Congress, and also as a Black American, was discovering my lack of awareness about Haiti and the histories of Haitians in the Americas. As I began to dive deeper in this project, I realized the power of learning more about Haitian history and how it influenced important figures and events in Black history in the United States. What do you think Haiti can teach us about the global initiative for Black liberation?
For what Haiti represents for the US, every person, no matter of your skin color, should know, for instance, about the Louisiana Purchase. Every American citizen should know that without the Louisiana Purchase, there wouldn't be the US empire, because without the successful Haitian Revolution, so France, Napoleon Bonaparte wouldn't sell Louisiana for a piece of money to Thomas Jefferson. And, this is something that is very important. So, and I think that Black people can learn a lot about Haiti, because long before, we will see that in the US, they will say, oh, we are one nation under God, liberty and freedom for all, etc. If we go, Taylor Books, and take the Constitution of 1801 of Toussaint Louverture, we are talking about in 1801, the very beginning of the 19th century. When we take the Article 3, 4, and 5 of that Constitution, it says we were all created equal. We were born free. We should live free and die with our dignity. So Haiti, the history of Haiti can teach to every American, Black American, African American, to fight for their dignity. Also, in the deed of independence of January 1st, 1804, we will see the reaffirmation of the philosophical idea of human dignity in the Constitution of May 20th, 1805 by Jean-Jacques Dessalines. In the Article 14, when it says all would definitely be known under the generic appellation of Black. So Haiti was the place that actually promoted, Blackness in a context of hostility against Blackness. Haiti also is the place that starts, Black liberation. Now after, the killing of many African Americans, so we have Black Lives Matter. But Black Lives Matter without hashtag really started in Haiti. So I do think that African American or Black American, they have a lot to learn about the history of Haiti. For instance, in Haiti, you will see that because of the name of Haiti, there is a place in Durham, North Carolina, that is called Haiti. But Haiti, they give to the neighborhood the name of Haiti, that we, pronounce Haiti in English, because for them, they were living in the context of segregation, and they look at the history of Haiti. It was the only place where Black person can, thrive economically, politically, culturally, and socially. Haiti in Durham, North Carolina was the place where Black people, they have, economic ownership. They can be themselves in a context of hostility, because Haiti showed the world in 1804 that you can be a Black person, you can be free, you can be yourself, in a context of hostility, because when Haiti got its independence, the international community didn't welcome Haiti as a sister nation. So also it's important for Black American, for African American to know that Haiti was a welcoming place for Black people in the 19th century. Alfred Dubois, the father of W.E.B. Du Bois, was born in Haiti. I edited a book between two Jean Price from Haiti and Africa, and I'm glad that this book is part of the project Live Guide of the library. But there is a chapter on this book that actually explain the connection between Haiti and the Harlem Renaissance. Many prominent intellectuals of Harlem Renaissance went to Haiti. They were inspired by the Haitian, environment, the Haitian weather, the Haitian food, the Haitian culture, Haitian society, Haiti and its people. Zora Neale Hurston, one of the prominent figures of Harlem Renaissance, it was in Haiti that she wrote her book, Their Eyes Were Watching God. So to tell you a lot of things, for Black people to accept, their Blackness, for Black people to understand they are beautiful, because Black is beautiful starting in Haiti in a context of racialized capitalism that associated, every positive thing with whiteness and every ugly thing with Blackness. And Haitian people say, no, we are all equal. We are beautiful. You are beautiful, Mama, So this is Mama Africa. Haiti is the representation of Mama Africa.
First thing I'll say is, in large part because education, as I think we see very clearly today, doesn't develop in a vacuum, right? It develops in relationship to, what school boards dictate and, also what parents are demanding, oftentimes in a way that can suppress things like, a Haitian history, a very subaltern history of, slave rebellion. So I say, like, you're not alone in that. I hear that all the time. And I had a similar experience as well, actually, where I learned about the Haitian Revolution and Garvey and, all the, these aspects of Black history. It was much more so in the home, more so than at school, which I also think is not typical. When we receive these at an early age, it is more often a more organic or a quote unquote less formal form of education is the way in which we get these stories, these histories. But most immediately, the question: what can the history of Haiti teach us as specifically as other Black folks around in Africa and around the African diaspora? A lot. A whole lot. Yeah. And that's one of the things that, I would say I entered, my research and entered the academy with the assumption that, that there's something to researching this. But over the course of research in the course of the early years of, my career, I think I've come to appreciate just how much we can learn from the history of Haiti. And that's because, let me put it this way. Sometimes there can be the idea that Haitian history matters because Haiti is exceptional. And it's not that. It's actually Haitian history teaches us so much and it matters so great because of all the connections that Haiti has to broader structures and systems and people, right? That it matters because, and this is the same conclusion that many of the people that I'm very interested in, the folks that people will know, like W.B. Du Bois, this is the conclusion that they reached as well, too. That put simply, to understand Haitian history is to understand the history of empires.
I actually think there's a lot that Haiti can teach us, both historically and contemporarily, about the Black freedom struggle. I will say for me, I think that, one of the things that really forced me to make the decision to go ahead and write this book about Haiti and about Haiti's influence on Black consciousness in the United States was the media coverage following the 2010 earthquake. With, and with all due respect to, my journalist friends, I found the coverage of Haiti to be just simply appalling. Following the earthquake, that, the focus was almost in a pathological way on Haiti. Why is Haiti the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere? And, just these totally outlandish things. Haiti is deforested because Haitians are eating trees. And just these completely absurd representations of Haiti and Haitians, that sort of pathologized Haiti as this, hopelessly impoverished nation governed by, these Black warlords that don't know how to govern themselves. And that really drove me to feel like, as a historian, we have a responsibility to set the record straight. And, as I tell people all the time, I think it's important to remember that, Haiti's current plight is not, the result of some inherent pathology among Haitians or among Black folks. It really has been by design that foreign intervention and foreign manipulation, first by France and later by the United States, is really what has caused Haiti to be in its current circumstances. So I think that Haiti has a lot to teach us, both positively and negatively, right, about history and about contemporary society. On the positive side, I think Haiti, the history of the struggle for the recognition and the right of Haiti to exist as a sovereign Black nation has a lot of lessons for us for the global Black freedom struggle. I think that, and this is one of the things I'm hoping my book will eventually contribute to the conversation, is to really demonstrate that stemming all the way back to the 19th century, Black activists in places like the United States, and it's true in other parts of the Americas as well, but certainly in the United States, Black activists understood Haiti's importance as the first sovereign Black nation in the Americas, and were passionately committed to defending Haiti's right to exist as a sovereign nation, were passionately committed to ensuring that the United States and other Western nations would recognize Haiti's right to sovereignty, and were very concerned about the U.S.'s attempts to exploit Haiti and its natural resources. At various points, they were extremely concerned about the U.S. government's attempts to annex Haiti and reimpose slavery. They're very keenly and astutely aware of the interrelationship between the Western nations' efforts to undermine Haiti and their desires to maintain slavery and white supremacy. And so I think, especially for contemporary activists and just the general public, to really have a clear understanding that, folks in the 19th century did not need social media. They didn't need Twitter. They didn't need digital technology to know and to understand and to be informed about the injustices that were happening in other parts of the world, and to become involved and committed to righting the wrongs, right, that are taking place relative to other Black nations. So I think that's a really powerful and instructive lesson, is to remember that people 200 years ago cared about Haiti and Haiti's sovereignty and its right to exist as an independent nation. And I think it raises important questions about why people today don't care as much as people did in the 19th century. So my hope is that it can really be sort of a positive lesson about what transnational Black solidarity, right? And what kind of early forms of Pan-Africanism could actually look like, and what people were able to achieve when they were as committed to the liberation of their brothers and sisters as they were to their own.
Thank you so much. So bringing it back into a contemporary context, I wanted to know, as scholars, as professionals, what would you say is your call to action for the media representation of Haiti?
I think it would be crucial for, again, speaking about mainstream media, it might seem like a detail, but so much reporting on Haiti relies on stock phrases and shortcuts. I don't even want to repeat those phrases, just not to participate in their circulation, but everyone's heard them. They're always repeated. They're always the same. And my problem with those is that they assume that we can take this for granted. Like we can take, that country for granted. And this sort of imply that everybody knows what we're talking about. But the truth is nobody knows what we're talking about. Nobody knows anything about Haiti. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I'm saying. There's sensationalism embedded in this. And the fact also that, that obviously there's always specialists of Haiti who know better. But the reality about Haiti is complex. And there's something about media that encourages simplicity. I think you can be simple without diminishing or betraying the country, which is what I think those shortcuts and stock phrases tend to do. I was thinking about this. I'm trying to imagine. There's a way in which Haiti only shows up in most media, Western media, when something terrible happens, right? The rest of the time, you never hear about it. And so it's easier to think that this is all that ever happens in Haiti and all that's ever happened in Haiti. That is very much a function of the way, Western countries have spoken about Haiti from the beginning, precisely to try and sort of restrain its possible influence. I mean, we're talking about entire world of slaveholding countries not wanting this idea to spread. So one of the ways to contain it culturally was to diminish it, right, constantly. And I think that tradition just is perpetuated, maybe unwittingly, or at least carelessly by media and other agencies. But I was thinking about this the other day, and I was trying to imagine, if foreign countries only ever heard of the U.S. With a string that would go from Katrina to, all the different hurricanes that, the great fires in the West, mobs attacking the Capitol. And these are the only things you ever, strictly, you never hear about music, you never hear about art, you never hear about film, but every once in a while, here's what happens. Look at the U.S. You could do this, right? You could have that narrative about the U.S., and it wouldn't be wrong in the fact that all those things did happen, but obviously it would give you a very, very narrow and biased image of the country. But this is what's happened to Haiti for the past 200 years. And I would say very much on purpose in many cases. So if anything, I would say, Haiti has been voluntarily isolated and ostracized by all of our countries, France, the US, and Great Britain for years. And so I think if I had a call, it would be to think and to present Haiti in relation rather than in isolation. Haiti is related to all of us, including the bad things that happen there. And I think that's the least we can do. And I think it's the honest thing to do as scholars and as journalists when you speak about Haiti, is to give a sense of all that information that most people don't get. To try and account for what it is that we're seeing when, even when we're talking about terrible things.
I think that my biggest call to the media, what I am constantly pleading with the media to do, is to really understand, and I suppose this is reflecting my bias as a historian, but my hope is that they would really understand and, honestly grapple with what the history and even the contemporary relationship of the United States and other Western nations has actually been towards Haiti. I know that the Library of Congress, for example, contains in its collection Frederick Douglass's speech in 1893 from the Chicago World's Fair. It's a fantastic and fascinating reflection. But one of my favorite quotes from that speech is he says, "Haiti is Black, and we have not yet forgiven Haiti for being Black." Mm-hmm. And I think that for me is at the core of this story, is that, the Western nations, starting first with, France following their loss in the Haitian Revolution, but then later the United States have really had predatory relationships to Haiti that have resulted in Haiti's current plight. And so my plea to the media would be to stop depicting, Haitian poverty as if it's, either an accident of history or that it is somehow the fault of Haitians themselves. That there has to be an honest reckoning with the role that the French, the United States, the British, the various Western nations over the course of, the past 200 plus years have actually played in ensuring that Haiti would remain in an impoverished nation. So there's lots of examples that I could give of that. I don't know how detailed you would like me to go, but I think literally stemming all the way back to, the founding of Haiti as a sovereign nation up to the present moment, right? French and U.S. intervention and disruption of the Haitian economy and of the Haitian political system is really what has brought into being what Haiti is facing now. And I wish the media would be honest about more of that story.
Yes. So a follow-up question to that would be, the media informs institutions like the Library of Congress that focus on long-term information gathering and preservation. What advice do you have for us concerning Haiti? What should we be preserving?
It is an amazing feat what the Library of Congress is able to preserve. And knowing that you have both the will and the mandate to do that, I'm willing to give you tons of ideas. But I mean, I think a couple things, contemporary types of materials that are really essential. One is radio preservation. I know there's actually a task force at the Library of Congress, but Haitian radio is an essential material, and I think a sort of something that can be gathered and preserved and needs to be. Creole language materials, absolutely essential, and then the ability to make them accessible in the sense of searchable, or at least in the catalog legible. And then sort of more broadly, Haiti-produced materials, writ large, which is just so crucial. I mean, so much of my arguments in my book and sort of the practice of my work is to always be focusing on what's produced in the ground by people who are there. And so being able to continue to, hold that in the library, make it available for researchers and for the broader public is really crucial. I don't know how much you guys are doing with sort of web engagement. I know new media, I sound quite old now, but new media is also, I think, really crucial to have people thinking about it. And there are tons of great online, there are blogs and different sort of media type materials produced by Haitians within Haiti and in the diaspora. And if that could be something as part of a resource to sort of highlight or hold or preserve, that would also be crucial.
Those are all wonderful answers. And so now I want to take it back to Dr. Perot. In your book, Dr. Perot, it's titled The Black Avenger in Atlantic Culture, it features a cover illustration from the Library of Congress. And that directly relates to what Michelle Rolfe-Trio calls the silencing of Haitian revolutionary history. How have you read those silences? How do you fill in those gaps? Or what methods have you been using to combat the erasure that's happening concerning Haitian history?
I think, I really like Trio's argument. I think it's often maybe somewhat misunderstood or misanalyzed. Like, he's really speaking of an active act of silencing, right? We talked a lot about sources that might be missing. And, I think, maybe that should go under a slightly different heading, just voices we don't necessarily have access to. But what he's speaking about are ways in which sources that do exist are, voluntarily ignored or sort of banalized, right? Like he says that, there's two ends to this erasure and banalization. And both of them rest on actually using sources, but using them badly, if you will, right? And pretty much on purpose. So in this way, I feel like he sort of, that idea almost provides its own path out. In that, well, there are ways of reading sources against the grain. And I think, again, I'm more of a literary scholar than a historian, but I feel that that's the least historians can do. Yet one of the things you find out the more you read about Haiti in particular is that a lot of them went about their job in ways that I think with time just like are so blatantly ideological, and by this I mean racist. It's sort of staggering, right? That people could get away with this stuff, and that were published and recognized scholars along the years. I mean, styles have changed and whatnot, but still, it's sort of a it's a very gross and surprisingly blatant illustration of Trouillot's argument. What you'll find people doing, and so to me, one of the ways to approach this is to go back to those assumptions that we just inherit from prior scholars, from prior writers, and question them. Look at what angle they were produced from, and maybe see if they look the same from different angles. I'm thinking Marlene Doubt's Tropics of Haiti, which is, does a lot about this, right? And one of the things she shows that is, again, it's so simple when it's spelled out, but it's also it's staggering in its enormity, right? It's just how much writing along the years, writing about Haiti relies on a naturalization of politics, and it reads race over everything, but in a way that says, well, these people were mixed race, therefore they did this. These people were Black, therefore, as if all of it went without saying in a certain way. And this is not just from overtly racist writings, right? This is also from fairly well-meaning scholars that just sort of take for granted that if people say, "I want to do this because I'm Black," well, then that must be true. They do this, it's my nature, or I defend my people as if, we didn't know better than it's not like, anyway, that's what I mean. Like there's something about it that is so silly. And yet book after book after book will sort of repeat this and then go on to something else. I think to me, rereading archival sources with sort of an eye for this, an eye for that bias, which I think, Trouillot and I think Marlene would agree is the fundamental bias we're talking about here, makes a world of difference. In the book, I do one thing in particular that is both very minute and possibly not super, fundamentally different, but I think sort of illustrates this. I looked at the expression "the Black Spartacus," which is sort of everybody, it's everywhere. Every time Toussaint Louverture is mentioned, the Black Spartacus. And, the story goes that this French general called him that on a very specific occasion, right? And, as I was working, I thought, oh, that's interesting. So, I kept looking because I'm like, well, what was that occasion? How did this happen? Was it a speech, etc.? And what you find out very, very soon, what I did find out is that all the people mentioning this story were, when they did cite any source, were all going back to the same source, which was written by a royalist, former planner, Frenchman who was, fighting in the English army against, the revolution, who could not have been there when this happened, right? So it's already, that was odd. And then when you keep digging, you find out that it's actually very unlikely the speech itself happened. But soon after that speech, publications started coming out that gradually, presented this expression as having been, presented at this, you might say, well, it's not that super interesting, or fundamentally different. But to me, it shows two things, right? One, that, if you don't check on historical sources and historiographic sources, the same way you might, check in science on other people's experiments, well, if you take everything for granted, you might find that people just do things that they shouldn't be doing, as it turns out, and say things that aren't necessarily exactly true, but that they can pass off because maybe they don't seem that important. But the second thing you find out, I think, and that's, again, fundamental, and that's sort of Trouillot's point, the enormity in the middle of this is racism, right? I mean, again, it seems very simple, but it's also that enormous. And so one thing I find out looking at this specific expression is that, it's part of a system in which Louverture himself, great actors of the revolution, French actors of the revolution, did actually plug in a racial reading where it didn't necessarily belong. So this is going on in the 1790s already, or it's starting in a way, but you could just not see it if you don't want to. You know what I mean? There's a way,
I know.
like, you need to sort of work against the grain and read into your sources. Like, you can't just read them for information, which, many people don't just do that. But then for a long time, I would say people read them for information that fit their worldview anyway, right? So I think it is, activist might be a big word here, but it needs to be it's a necessary effort, and it needs to be aware, it's done in awareness, right? Like, part of what I read against is the racism that's ingrained in those texts, and it is everywhere, but it's not always obvious.
Yes, that's fantastic. So adding on to this conversation, we are joined by Alexis Bracey, our Huntington intern, who is going to ask a question about Haitian Creole.
So my focus has been primarily on gathering resources in Haitian Creole. As a part of my research, I read The Haitians, A Decolonial History by Jacques Casimir, which was significant in helping me understand the ways in which language was a tool of resistance against slavery. Jacques Casimir writes, everything the Haitian population remembers of its past, everything it makes of its present, everything it is and believes it might become on its own terms, is all expressed in its own language, Creole. To inscribe their goals in reality, the people use their own knowledge system, not that of the master. My question for you is, what is the importance of scholars, and in particular scholars who are writing about Haiti in English, to consult sources in Haitian Creole, whether they be written sources or audio sources, such as the Radio Haiti Archive?
That's a brilliant question, and I will do my best to answer it too. So in a good fashion, I think, let's go first. For instance, I'm a social theorist. As you know, if we took the work of Michel Foucault, who is an archaeology of knowledge, a philosopher, Foucault would say that language is power. By language, we are doing inclusion, but also by language, we exclude. So, for instance, in the understanding the power of language in shaping Haitian society, Haitian politics, Haitian culture, Haitian intellectual thought is very important, Alexis, because, for instance, Haiti is a country, since the very foundation, we saw that the Haitian elites, they decided to exclude the vast majority of the Haitians who speak Haitian Creole. So, Alexis, you have a country, is a paradox, because the country that also indicate, that is like the birthplace of Blackness, the birthplace of equality, a birthplace of human dignity, but you have some very powerful elites, political elites, intellectual elite, and economic elite, who embrace what Pierre Bourdieu would call the habitus of the former master, the French colonizer, and they would reject Mama Africa, the language. They would reject the Haitian, what we call in sociology of religion, the popular religion, Haitian Creole, the Haitian religion, the Haitian Vodou. So language has always played a key role in, preventing Haiti to become a state for the nation. That also reminds us a title of a book that Michel Wolf published in, The State Against the Nation. And language play a key role in making Haiti a state against the nation, Alexis. So Creole is very important because it was between 1804. It will be until the Constitution of March 29, 1987, Alexis, we will see an official recognition of Haitian Creole. So you have a country, more than 99% of the population is black skin, they speak a language, but the elite also decided to marginalize, the vast majority of the Haitian people. And those factors also are important to understand the current situation in Haiti. So I do think it's important to challenge, the traditional narrative, the traditional that Haiti is a place, we speak French. Yes, I speak French because I have some kind of cultural, cultural capital, as Pierre Bourdieu would say. But the vast majority of Haitians, they don't speak French. Haitians speak Creole. So if we also want to challenge the traditional narrative, if we want also to give to Haitian people their dignity again, we should also rethink the schooling system, because the schooling system in Haiti, Alexis, has been shaped by elitisms, and that elitisms, have put, in marginalized the language of Haitian people. Until now, in the socio-cultural universe in Haiti, French still operating as the hegemonic language, Alexis, and Creole is a non-hegemonic language. This is a pathology. And at the same time, we are criticizing the pathology of American imperialism against Haiti. We have also to have the courage to criticize, the kind of, cultural pathology that continue to shape the contour of Haitian society and the daily life of Haitian people, Alexis. Definitely, I think it's important to embrace what scholar on Creole, Haitian scholar, but not only Haitian scholar, because Haitian studies is an open field in which we have different kind of intellectual. Every kind of scholar who is embracing Creole to promote counter narratives of Haiti, we should pay attention to their work, and more specifically, pay attention to the work of Haitian scholars who are continuing on a constant basis using Creole not only in article, in paper, but also in their music, to actually resist to the oppressions, of different kind of oppressions and repression. We should actually pay attention to them. Why I'm answering you, I have in mind, for instance, a young Haitian songwriter. His name is Kleber, who is doing a very interesting things in using Haitian Creole. But before him, we had also, Mano Chalmai in the 1970s, 1980s, who used Haitian Creole in music to show resistance. We have a kind of music that we call in Haitian Creole Racine music, the roots music with groups such as Boukman Experience, with Lolo, with Manzé. We have also Kujai. We have a lot of music, what we call wood music, that is a mixture of, Jamaican reggae and African music, using Creole in music in order to resist to oppression coming from the, most repugnant Haitian elite, but also resistant against, American imperialisms.
Fantastic. So going back to some of the books that are going to be written about Haitian history, particularly your book, Dr. Sieber, Haiti's Paper War, I'm interested in how you dive into Haiti and how it is used to privilege many different agendas. Could you offer an example of these agendas and talk about how you work to represent Haiti without such agendas? What do you think we can gain from studying Haitian history?
I also acknowledge and really try and reflect and be very deliberate about my practice of how I engage with Haiti as a place, as an object of research, as a subject of sort of my work, and as what really is my life's work. I mean, I will continue to work on this for as long as I'm researching and thinking. And so, in that sense, I think everyone who is researching or in these conversations is coming with an idea of Haiti. And then it's really a question of how you can work to not make it a singular use, or to move beyond just wanting it to represent something so that you can make an argument about something else, right? And that's so hard because it is so complex. And so a little bit, that's sort of what my book has tried to do. And I've had really interesting conversations with people about that, which is I know sort of the limits of what I'm really working on and where I want to ask other people to sort of pick up from there, or like take the baton. Like I hope, I mean, it sounds like from reading it, you found it accessible. It is both very like densely researched, but it is also wanting to be accessible for people to be able to take that work and that sort of really elaborating on these complexities in order to inform the work that they may be doing in their field that isn't sort of this deep look at Haiti's long post-colonial 19th century. And so I guess my hope is just even in maybe to come back to my first sort of non-answer answer, which is like we're all using Haiti as an idea to some degree. And my hope is to really have people reflect on what idea of Haiti are they using and be really clear about that. And then that sort of allows us to not take what they're saying as like the whole monolithic Haiti that they're representing. I think another thing, I mean, what can we gain? Again, this is another use of Haiti. I think there is everything to gain from studying and learning from Haiti and listening to Haiti and really spending time in Haitian texts. One of the ways that I have done that is my relationship and understanding of France's history and France's sort of complicated relationship with colonialism, slavery, and this idea of universalism. Haiti is central. Haiti's history is central to understanding sort of the blind spots and shortcomings of contemporary French republicanism. And that's really crucial. That's a use of Haiti that I think is really important, but nonetheless, a use. I actually pulled two quotes just thinking about this question about what we can learn. Raoul Peck recently narrated in his documentary series, Exterminate All the Brutes, sort of echoing Michel Oeuvre-Troyot in Silencing the Past. And he said, quote, "What happens in Haiti contradicts most of what the West had claimed about itself." So even just sitting with that, understanding those contradictions, studying Haiti, illuminating those contradictions and ruminating and kind of allowing anyone who's sort of in a West-based framework, it can be so sort of paradigm shifting.
That's amazing. And I think it really ties into our next question. And I'm really curious to know, it seems as though Black Americans knew more about Haiti in the 19th century than they do now. What do you think changed in our education system or storytelling that led to some of the erasure of Haiti in African American history?
I mean, and that's a great thing to emphasize, Taylor. So I'll try to piggyback on that, right? Like, there are many ways in which we can miss something as simple, and I don't mean that flippantly or pejoratively for sure. Something as simple as a fact that over the course of the 19th century, far more. Put it this way: in the course of the 19th century, Haitian is a receiving country for migrants, right? Not a sending country, right? Far more Black people are leaving the U.S. to go to Haiti, by the mid and late 19th century than are leaving Haiti to come to goes from the slave owning to the Jim Crow U.S., right? So we can miss something like that, if we're not careful, right? And if we're not doing the homework and research, right? And when we miss something like that, then we're also missing something about how to, for me, how to approach many of the current events today, right? So I guess to put that less abstractly, right? I think there's something to understanding even what you just said about this history of migration. There's something to understanding that informs how we should approach the aspirations and the crisis of Haitians at this border manufactured by the U.S. government today, right? There's something to understanding that before a lot of developments in late 19th, early 20th century that destabilize Haiti, that turn it into a country that will send out migrants, that before then it was an asylum and a refuge. There's something to that, to really understanding and appreciating the goals and aspirations and the rights of the Haitian people themselves now, right? Who are trying to claim asylum for themselves. So I guess that's where I'm at in terms of thinking today about the connections between the history and the present.
Yeah, I think that, I completely agree with you. There's no question in my mind that Black folks in the 19th century knew more, even just folks on the ground, knew more about Haiti and its history and its independence than Black folks do now in the 21st century. I really think, again, that this is largely by design, right? That all of the public representations that exist about Haiti, certainly in the 20th century and in the 21st century, are negative ones. It's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Look at these people coming on boats trying to get into our country. They're, like I said, eating trees. And I mean, just all kinds of crazy things. Right. You never hear positive stories about Haiti in US culture, in history. The depictions of Haiti are not positive. Mm-hmm. And I think as a result of that, Black folks have largely, sort of pulled back condition and an affiliation with Haiti, not really fully understanding why Haiti is in the situation that it is, right? And I think it does go a lot back to sort of respectability politics. Black activists, historically speaking, through much of the 20th century, have been about trying to hold up the best and most positive images of, Black people and Black freedom and saying, see, this is what we can be. This is what we can be. And because of how Haiti has been treated, it's not a country you can hold up as a positive image. Oh, this is what Black self-governance can look like, right? This is what an independent Black nation can look like. Haiti does not have positive images associated with it. And so I think people have tended to back away from, association with Haiti, rather than recognizing that Haiti has a proud and beautiful history, and that it is a country that has been attacked and has been beleaguered, right, by mistreatment and abuse by Western nations that have created its situation. But that if it had been allowed to exist on equal terms as a sovereign nation, its story would be very different.
To wrap this up, I was wondering if a few of you could share some final thoughts with our audience concerning Haiti.
I would just really encourage people to continue to try to let Haiti displease and disturb in a different way, which is to say, to really, self-reflect on what is going on in Haiti right now, or what sort of ideas of Haiti's history we have are actually deeply implicated, at least in the US, with our history. And so, continuing to take up that challenge. It's hard, it's uncomfortable. I get that, but that's something that I think people, especially with the amount of resources people can have to read and to engage, and obviously at the Library of Congress too. I mean, so many of the crucial sources that I was looking at produced by Haitians in Haiti in the 20th century were because I got to do the fellowship at the Library of Congress and read them all and engage with all of them. So it's there. It's upon people to take it up. I hope my book contributes in some small part to making that more accessible. But yeah, that would be my hope and my recommendation.
So I think to congratulate you and to encourage you to continue. You are on the very right path. So to congratulate and acknowledge the great work of Susan Shedol, giving you that space to do what you are doing. And it's like a great pleasure for me, and I am very available to continue to working with you. And I think that we will make a great that project, when we be launched, will make a huge impact. And it's like a work that you and I, we don't know the benefits, but the current and future generation of Haitian and Black people and everyone committed to racial justice, to social justice, will definitely be grateful for the great work that you are doing. So thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for listening to this webcast with these amazing scholars. Please look for their full bios and list of accomplishments in the description below. Be sure to tune in to future webcasts produced by the Latin American, Caribbean, and European Division in the Library of Congress. For more information, please visit us online at guides www.loc.gov/Haiti Reimagined.